So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the information session for the Master of Arts in Social Policy and Social Development. My name is Dr. Karita Ken, and I am the program leader of this MA program. So really appreciate everyone taking the time today to join this session. If you're considering applying for this program, I hope that the following few minutes would give you more background information on what this program is about. And there will also be a Q&A session at the end, and you can just raise any questions that you might have. So let me give you a very quick rundown of today's presentation. So the overview will include some background information on why we believe a program in social policy and social development is particularly important for Hong Kong and for global society in this day and age. And then I'll go into the more technical details of what this program is about, the curriculum, the program structure, the courses that you need to take. I'll briefly discuss some of the scholarships and opportunities that you will receive if you join us here at PolyU. We usually receive many questions about, what kinds of career can I pursue after taking this master's program. So I'll also give you an idea of the career paths that our graduates have taken. And finally, just a few quick links to show you how to apply for this program for those of you who are interested. So to begin with, why this program and why we believe a degree in policy and social development is important, particularly at this time. I want to start the presentation by showing you this figure that you see on the screen. So this is basically a figure that some of the scientists at World Bank has conducted on global income losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the past few years. And here you show a really contrasting picture of wealth inequality. Basically, what you see at the bottom is the different percentile of population, starting from the left-hand side of the graph, which are the poorest 10 to 20% of the population, all the way to the right-hand side of the graph, where you see people in the highest income brackets. And already you see a picture of very stark inequality. While people in the lowest percentile, from 0 to 10th to 20th to 30th to 40th, have suffered as much as 7% decrease in, a 7% income loss as a result of COVID-19. We see a much lower degree of damage for people in the upper income brackets. And we also see a very big change in terms of over time, right? In 2020, a lot of people suffer economic loss. Everybody was, losing 5-7% of their income. But by 2021, which is the line shown by the red curve, we see the richest people in society recovering their income and their loss at a much quicker pace compared with the poorest proportion of the population, which still see income losses as much as 6 to 7% to this day. And so we can see that, the pandemic has had a differentiating impact on different groups in the society. The distributive effect of, a global pandemic is reflected in our own society as well. So let me show you this other figure. Globally, we've been, before 2017, we've been seeing continuous decline in our extreme poverty rate. Now, extreme poverty, as you can see at the note below, is measured as the number of people living on less than 1.9 US dollars per day. So that's about 15, 16 Hong Kong dollars, right? So prior to 2017, as shown by the green line, we can see that extreme poverty rate has been on the decline, right? Has been going from above 10% to 9.3% by 2017. And before COVID hits us, it was actually projected to further drop to about 7.5% by 2021. But with the pandemic, it has basically regressed our progress in reducing extreme poverty around the globe, with the post-COVID-19 projection of extreme poverty rate not only not declining, but climbing back up to 9.5% in 2021. So as I mentioned, the inequalities that we see in wider society is also reflected in Hong Kong. For those of you who live here, this news might be, might you come across this in the South China Morning Post. It is said that, published in April 2021, that Hong Kong's multimillionaire population actually hit record high in 2020. Even as the economy is having its worst recession on record. So this is a study conducted by Citibank called the Hong Kong Affluence Study, showing that about 515,000 people are estimated to have $1.28 million each in total assets last year, which has climbed up. Contrasting this picture with how the pandemic has hit some of the poorer groups in the society. And you can see here news published about how poverty is hitting 1/3 of the families with employment struggles. A lot of people, especially in blue-collar jobs or in the service sectors, have lost their work. And some of them have been converted from full-time work to part-time work, or they are placed on furlough, meaning that they're forced to take unpaid leave as businesses and shops and restaurants were closed around the city, especially during all the previous waves of COVID that we've had. The pandemic has revealed a lot of problems in the governance and in the welfare system in our society. For those of us living here, you would probably all recall, pictures, especially during the 5th wave in the first quarter of last year, how we have seen basically hospitals overwhelmed with patients, that they were filled to, there's so lack of capacity that a lot of the patients have to be left outside the hospital. They weren't even allowed or able to go inside. Here we have a video showing how bodies were piling up at hospitals and mortuaries as Hong Kong records, hundreds of thousands of cases every day. And accidents and emergency departments basically being challenged to the maximum capacity. There are, of course, also less obvious consequences that the pandemic has wrought on Hong Kong society. Consequences that are less visible, they don't make headlines all the time, but that are equally damaging to society in the longer term. And one of these is in the area of education. As we all know, Hong Kong has been dealing with the shift to online learning for the longest time. Those of you who were doing a bachelor degree during this time would know that a lot of the courses were moved online. But for some of the kindergarten and primary and high school students, this shift to online learning has been really detrimental to learning and teaching. This article from Reuters talks about how a poorer student falls behind during this period of online learning. It talks about how, this girl called Wendy, when she received a question from her geography teacher during an online class, she has to scramble to unmute her mother's cell phone, but the screen keeps freezing because she has already used up her monthly 5 gigabytes data allowance. So it reveals this really big gap in data access and in the availability of resources like computers and mobile phones and iPads, and how they can affect learning quality in households with lower income. So a similar report here talking about how Hong Kong's vulnerable pupils are falling through the cracks, and that they're being set back by months of online learning at home. So this particularly has affected students from low-income homes, those who have special learning needs, or are from ethnic minority communities. With the shutdown of schools and the closure of playground facilities, over 180,000 children living in poverty are missing school facilities and interactions, and the kind of social space that only schools can provide. And then there are also silent crises, right, that affect not only the disadvantaged, but also the wealthy as well, right? So, there are news that talks about how there's this new pandemic of mental health crisis around the world as people suffer from social scarring and social distancing measures and in home isolation. And in Hong Kong, nearly half of the residents suffer from moderate to severe signs of anxiety during the fifth wave. And sometimes it's very difficult to comprehend how this will continue to affect the healthy development of different groups in our society. One of the figures shows that the number of people seeking mental health support has tripled in the first quarter of 2022 compared with the same period from a year ago. So the reason why I open with these news articles and with the pandemic is to show you, why a program in social policy might be important, right? The pandemic has really put to the foreground a lot of the social issues that our society has to deal with, from health to pandemic control, employment and underemployment, minimum wage policy is brought to the foreground. How can we design a family-friendly workplace? How do we advance gender equality? Also brings to light issues like affordable housing, right? When we talked about home isolation, some people can isolate in, each family member can retreat to their own room and isolate. But there are also families who, it's not possible to complete an individualized format of isolation. And so this brings up, Hong Kong's housing problems, aging issues, elderly care, and linking to broader issues of infrastructure construction, etc., etc. So social policy is particularly important in such a context because they are viewed as tools for solving social, economic, environmental, and public health problems. And as we can tell from past years' experience, there is an urgent need to improve the quality of social policy and policymaking process in our society and in the world as a whole. And so one of the aims of this program is to train competent and skilled professionals who are not just equipped with theoretical knowledge or those who have good grades. We also want to equip our students with practical competence so that you can work and engage in the fields of social policy and social development. So what distinguishes our program from some of the other programs that are available out there? Well, first of all, we have a very targeted field. We take into consideration both the analysis of social policy, and we also emphasize practice for social development. This is a program that is very much knowledge-based. You will receive training in both theory and in practice. So in terms of the theory, we will be teaching you the critical knowledge of the processes of social policy making and also the different approaches to social development. We would also try to equip you with the appropriate tools required, not just for formulating and designing policy, but also how to implement them and how to evaluate and its impact. So the learning outcome that we're aiming for in this program is the interplay of both theory and the practical application of skills. The characteristics of our program is a very interdisciplinary program. If you look at the list of courses, you will see that we have training provided from different angles, from social work to sociology to mental health studies. Our teachers are also from different disciplinary backgrounds, and this usually our students find to be a big source of inspiration because you learn to tackle the same issues or to look at the same social problems from different angles. we don't just focus on social issues in Hong Kong or in mainland China. We also try to, give our students a broader global horizon, which we believe is crucial for acquiring, this horizon of global citizenship. A lot of our students go on to work for NGOs, and some also leave Hong Kong or mainland China and, gain international experiences overseas. This is also a very hands-on program, as we talked about, that there will be a chance for you to practice your skills. And so overall, we integrate academic, managerial, and professional knowledge and skills in the program. Moving on to the more technical details of our MA program. Now, the program is very simply structured. Basically, you have to take 30 credits in order to graduate. And this includes 6 subjects that are required, and also 4 subjects that you can choose from a list of electives. The duration, if you do this in 1 year, separated into 3 semesters, that you can get your MA certificate in 1 year, from September basically to August. But if you choose to do this part-time, if you do have work or if you have other things going on during the day, then this can be a part-time program of 2 years. All of the courses are in the evening. So our part-time students usually go to work, they go to teach, they're social workers in the morning, and then they come over at night to take out classes from 6:30 to 9:20 p.m. at night. So this is basically sort of the curriculum structure. You can see first on the left-hand side, the 6 required subjects. So social context and ethics, social policy analysis, social planning and the policy process, policy research methods, and the theory and practice of social development. The 6th required subject is the one further down below, the integrative project. So this is a project of independent study that students will have to complete under the supervision of a supervisor, right? So basically, you'll be assigned to a professor who will be supervising your independent research project over the summer. And then you can see on the right-hand side a list of elective subjects. So out of these subjects, we will usually offer a few different electives every year, and you can further choose from the elective subjects that are on offered. So for example, in this academic year, we have comparative social policy with social policy and social development, social policy evaluation, assessing globalization and social development, emerging issues of social policy in Asia, quantitative methods for policy research and evaluation, etc., etc. Out of that, you have to choose 4 plus the 6, and then you will get your 30 credits for graduation. Now, I want to talk a bit about the rationale behind the design of our courses. We don't just come up with a random list of subjects. Our design of the entire program is based on the whole policy and development cycle. So what is a policy and development cycle? Well, first of all, when you go about to design policies to address social problems or development issues, you first go into the population and society that you study, and you identify the needs and you analyze the problems. So that's the first step. And then based on the needs assessment and the problem identification, you then formulate a number of policy and development options. You choose your options based on an assessment of the expected policy and development impacts. So that's impact assessment. And then following the implementation of the policy, you then conduct a thorough evaluation of whether the policy or development option that you've designed has been effective in actually achieving the goals that you've set out to achieve. If it is meant to, for example, support underemployed workers, has it actually achieved what it's supposed to achieve? If this is, intended to help special needs students, are the policies really helping with their inclusive development? So this is how we've designed this, the whole structure of the program as well. We begin with subjects that will help you to understand the policy cycle and development, such as theories and practices of social development, issues in social policy. And then we move on to the identification and analysis of problems. And so for here, you have two required subjects, which is policy research methods and also social policy analysis. And then you move on to learn to design and formulate policy options. And for these, we have the subject social planning, and we also, in the policy process, and we also want students to be aware of the ethics of policy making. And so we have this course, which is more based on philosophy, on social context and ethics. Then we have the impact assessment part. So we have social impact assessment. You will learn how to implement a project that you've designed, and the best way to do so is through a practical hands-on experience in the form of the IP. And finally, we learn to evaluate, the project through a course in social policy evaluation. Okay, so I hope that the foregoing presentation has helped you to gain a deeper understanding of why this program is important, why our program is different from some of the other programs on offer, and also, the philosophy and logic behind how we've structured the courses. For the next part of the presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of the scholarships and opportunities that PolyU can offer you. So an exciting development, because the department is launching, starting from this year's admission exercise, a new scholarship that will be awarded on your entry. So this is a scholarship of up to $18,000 for select applicants with outstanding achievements. So there's nothing that you have to do in your application. Basically, we will be reviewing all the applications that we've received, and then the admission panel will select a few students whom we believe to have had the best academic performances, the best portfolio and personal statement, and then you will receive a letter with an offer of an entry scholarship. So this scholarship will help to offset part of the cost of your tuition fee. And we hope that this will encourage, outstanding applicants to join our PolyU community. So this is something new to look out for. Now, once you've joined PolyU, we continue to have opportunities for different awards and recognitions. So two of the awards that we have to give recognition to outstanding graduates is first, the Tan Quang Leung Memorial Merit Award. Now, this is a one-off prize of 5,000 Hong Kong dollars granted to the best two performing graduates in each academic year. We also have, starting from last year, a Dr. David Ip Memorial Award. So again, this is an award to recognize outstanding academic performance in the program. This is also a one-off cash prize of $5,000, and it is granted to the best graduate based on research excellence in your IP subject. That is the independent study project that I just talked about, APSS 5776. So each year, the professors teaching that course will come together and they will nominate the best work in that course, and that student will receive this memorial award. So not only do you get a scholarship opportunity even before joining PolyU, you will continue to have opportunities to receive recognition for your performance after you've joined us. Our program also offers some amazing opportunities for our graduates. So, for example, we have a long-standing collaboration with Washington University at St. Louis in the United States. Basically, this is a dual degree program targeting our own graduates. Now, the WashU program Brown School is designed for training up the next generation of leaders in global social policy. It allows students who have graduated from the MAS-PhD in PolyU to then go on to be admitted to Brown School at Washington University. And there you can take a reduced credit load and gain a second master's degree. So basically, you can get 2 master's degrees, one from Hong Kong PolyU and one from Washington U in the US in 2 years, should you choose to do this full-time. And Washington U is willing to offer internship opportunities and scholarship opportunities as well. So in the past, some of the PolyU, some of the graduates of our program at PolyU has taken this chance and went on to study at Washington University. And they have gone on to found very fulfilling and prestigious jobs in the United States. So after you've joined our program, every year we organize an information session about this dual degree arrangement. And so there'll be more chances for you to learn about this later on. PolyU also has a tripartite collaborative arrangement with the University of Chicago in the United States and Peking University from mainland China. So for a number of years now, we've been running what we've called the Winter Institute. This is basically a 2-week program that will take place in Hong Kong and in mainland China, where students will be able to engage in exchange activities, lecture seminars, and other opportunities in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and in Kunming. So there will be a chance to basically work with and to learn from the teachers and students of U Chicago, Peking U, and also PolyU. Now, because of the pandemic, the Winter Institute has stopped running in the past few years, but we're confident that this will be relaunched very soon with the gradual resumption of travel across the border. Some of the other programs that we've organized, including overseas study trips. In Hong Kong, there are chances to do different visits, such as taking part in the Hong Kong Legislative Council election. There are also social impact assessment groups that's been run by our teachers. And of course, there are meal gatherings and festival celebrations. So as we speak, for this cohort of MAS-PhD students in semester 2, we'll also be organizing a New Year's gathering for the Chinese Valentine's Day and also a visit to the Legislative Council as well. So there will be plenty of opportunities to network both within and outside of the classroom. Now to the final part of my presentation, the question about, what can I do with a degree in social policy and social development? Now, really, this degree opens a lot of doors, and not just in some of the sectors that we were traditionally associated with social policy. Now, of course, if you're interested in applying for our program in the first place, chances are that you are interested in ultimately perhaps joining the government, joining NGOs, or other development-related organizations. So many of our graduates do indeed take up jobs in the government sector, policy development and analysis in government bureaucracy. For those in Hong Kong, they might become what we call AO or EO, administrative and executive officers, or to become assistants to councillors, the legislative councils or district councils. Others choose to join the non-government sectors, working for NGOs. Some of our graduates have found positioned at some of the well-known organizations in Hong Kong, including Oxfam and St. James's Settlement. Others choose to join think tanks and research institutes, and also community organizations and lobby groups. But students who graduate from this program are not just confined to, working in the government or non-government sector. In fact, a lot of them choose to enter the private sector, working for different corporations. And I can tell you from personal experience that, a lot of the banks and companies, they actually like students who have social policy and social development thinking, because a degree or training in sociology and political science really do equip students with critical thinking skills and the ability to work very independently on research projects. And so it is a sought after degree for HSBC, Kimberly-Clark, working in the field of corporate social responsibility, becoming journalists in some of the local newspapers. Some of them become consultants as policy speechwriters, policy researchers, community engagement experts, and some of them has chosen to, continue with some of the academic work by coordinating policy and development surveys. And then finally, every single year, we will have a few graduates who really love what they study. They're passionate about the field of development studies. They're passionate about sociology, rural development. And so they will go on to stay at PolyU or to go to a different institution to pursue a PhD degree. Others would take up positions in research projects, working as research associates or assistants or project staff for some of the existing projects. And others would take up teaching positions as tutors and as instructors. So all three types continuing to remain in the academia. So as you can tell from the examples that I've given, there's really a diversity of career directions that you can take with an MAS PhD degree in your bag. Okay, so I guess the message is, for those of you who are interested, I do strongly encourage you to apply now. The early deadline for applying for this program has already passed as of the end of last November. But the second deadline hasn't passed yet. It will be the 30th of April of this year, 2023. So there's still a few months to go, but I do want to say that offers are given out on a rolling basis. And so I would encourage you to apply sooner rather than later, because then your applications can be given earlier consideration. And if you have a good portfolio and we would like to have you as one of our students, then, being given an early offer is better. So how to apply? There's this link right here. Just click the link, move to the tab Taught Postgraduate Degree, and then you can find our program and then just begin the whole application process online. I would also like to provide our contact information for those of you who would like to stay in touch with us. So that's me and my email at the top, karita.ken@polyu.edu.hk. And for other inquiries, please also feel free to contact the amazing Ms. Katie Chen, who's been a huge source of help for our program. And you can find her at sspg@polyu.edu.hk.